It's a rivalry no matter the context, and one deeply rooted in hatred. All the best ones are. It's the Vols and Gators in Knoxville, and here to help us break down this big-time game, we've got Graham Hall from Swamp247 and Patrick Brown from GoVols247. And guys, I did say no matter the context, but let me just give you a little bit of context to set the scene in this one. It's round 54. The Gators lead the series 32-21, and they lead the recent series. Florida is 17-2 against Tennessee since 2005. Now, those two Vol victories did come in Knoxville, where this game is being played. Now, Tennessee defense hopes to remain strong, having held 6 consecutive opponents under 20 points. It's not going to be hard for the Vols to get amped to play Florida in general, but definitely some extra motivation coming off a loss. So, Patrick, what is the feeling among the team in that building ahead of this one?
Well, Emily, Tennessee's coaches and players have all said the right things this week about bouncing back and resetting and turning the page from what was a really disappointing loss at Arkansas last week. Tennessee just didn't play well, really, in any facet in that game against the Razorbacks. The offense, really outside of 2 drives in the third quarter, couldn't get much going. Inefficient throwing the football, didn't get a whole lot going on the ground. Some missed opportunities as well, some misuse in pass protection, really, and some penalties as well, really hamstrung the offense. And the defense had its worst game of the season, allowing season highs in total yards, rushing yards, passing yards. Still almost made enough plays to hold on at the end in a low-scoring game, but Tennessee just didn't make the winning plays in the fourth quarter and left Arkansas really frustrated by the performance that they put on the field. So it's all about bouncing back this week, and you're going to have to rely on your team's leadership, your team's preparation. Josh Heupel is big on the routine that his players have. And so it's going to have to be, it's got to be action more than words. I mean, they can say the right things early this week, but it's got to be when they are behind the scenes, when they're practicing, when they're in meetings, when they're getting ready for this game. And then they've got to go out Saturday night and play much better than they did last week.
Yeah, Josh Heupel pointing out that this is their first time at home in nearly a month. And so they'll certainly have the comfort and hopefully that Neyland bump. Meanwhile, on the other side, Graham, the Gators, they keep fighting despite all this hot seat talk with their head coach right now. So what is at stake in this game for Florida and Billy Napier, if anything?
Well, I think that this would be Florida's biggest win in SEC play under Billy Napier. I think that is obviously what is at stake for him. He has a chance to salvage a little bit of his seat, so to speak, there. He can get some momentum back. They can string together a 3rd consecutive victory, 2nd in SEC play. And I think that certainly for Florida, they're coming off their best game of the season. They held a high-powered UCF offense to their fewest yards all season. They held their rushing game to 108 yards. You know how good RJ Harvey is, and they have a stable of backs. But this is really, I think, the toughest road game thus far for them. It's only been 5 games this season, but they played at Starkville for that first road trip at an 11 a.m. local contest. Wasn't really a true road environment, no offense to the Bulldogs fans. This is really going to test this team's mettle if they're able to withstand the road environments and Billy Napier is able to coach an efficient game. It's going to get some more people on his side, and certainly there are a lot of people who have already written him off as Florida's coach. We've heard that nothing is imminent right now. Obviously, that can change if Florida comes out and looks dismal against the Volunteers, but a win could maybe extend that timeline even further and go further to maybe solidifying the chance that Billy Napier is back for a 4th year in Gainesville. I think there's a lot at stake here for Florida that they can gain from this game. Otherwise, we're kind of back at square one coming off that Texas A&M game where a lot of people are going to talk about whether Billy Napier is the guy here in Gainesville.
Also looking ahead to the schedule, I mean, this is the first of 5 games against top 15 opponents in their next 6 games. So it is certainly daunting road ahead for Florida. A win here would go a long way. On the other side of things, I mean, Tennessee, we talk about that defense, talk about the offense. It's hard to kind of pick where they need to improve the most. But let's start with offense because they just couldn't seem to get into a rhythm with Nico in this passing game, a rhythm that we have seen before. So, Patrick, how do they find it and get it back on offense?
Yeah, Emily, it was really stark, really kind of a shock to see a Josh Heupel offense struggle as much as Tennessee did on last week against Arkansas. No points in the first half for the first time since, I believe, a 2019 game against Florida, and you never want to be compared to a Jeremy Pruitt offense. But yeah, and outside of two drives in the third quarter, they were kind of a mess. It was a little bit of everything. A lot of the little things went wrong. Maybe there were some breakdowns in pass protection, some losses of one-on-one matchups in that realm of the game. Sometimes receivers maybe weren't open. Sometimes Nico was just feeling the pressure. And so he maybe wasn't seeing the field as great. Obviously, those last couple of plays have been broken down quite a bit, and maybe he didn't see some guys coming open and little things like that. But it's a lot of little things that Tennessee needs to correct. Obviously, their offensive tackles have to play better, I think, first and foremost, because as good as Nico is, I think it's hard to play quarterback when you're under pressure as much as he was against Arkansas. He's got to see the field better. His timing has got to be a little bit better. Could be a little bit of a challenge this week. We'll see about the health statuses of Brew McCoy and Squirrel White, two of Tennessee's starting wide receivers who both got hurt in the Arkansas game. For Nico, I think he's kind of going through some growing pains as a young quarterback. This is a guy that, again, just had one start coming into the season. He's still just a redshirt freshman. You'd expect him to be a little bit more comfortable on the road, but I don't think he's thrown for more than 211 yards against a FBS team. Some of that was they blew Kent State out, so he didn't have to play even a full half. But the passing game has been kind of really hit and miss. They made some big plays against Oklahoma, but it was just really inefficient, particularly down the field against Arkansas. And they've got to get all the components working, all the protection, running backs too, wide receivers have got to get on the same page. They've got to get a lot of little things fixed. But if Tennessee can get all those things clicking, they should get back on track on offense. And it's going to be a challenge. Florida, as Graham said, is playing pretty good defense, but Tennessee's got to get back on track, and they've got to fix some of the things that were really hamstringing them against Arkansas.
You mentioned getting some help from the offensive line on Saturday. 4 sacks, 4 false starts, illegal snap, delay of game penalty, certainly things that do not help your young quarterback. Graham, I'm going to apologize in advance. I know you get this question every single week, but we got to continue to ask it. Graham Mertz versus DJ Lagway. What do you anticipate the share, I guess, is between those two on Saturday?
Well, we can't really go off past results because Billy Napier has indicated that they're going to change the quarterback split on a game-to-game basis. Now, Graham Mertz has been very effective and very efficient the past couple of weeks. He went 19 of 21 against Mississippi State, went 19 of 23 this past week against UCF. But DJ Lagway has yet to throw an incompletion those past 2 weeks. He was 7 of 7 against Mississippi State. He was 4 of 4, very limited opportunities against UCF. Florida only had 3 offensive drives there in the second half. But it comes down to, I think, what the game, how it's going to transpire. If Florida is able to get an early lead and control the game clock, which you saw against UCF, I think you're going to see a lot more of Graham Mertz, maybe a two-thirds quarterback split between him and the freshman quarterback in Lagway. But if Florida finds itself with an early deficit, I think you will see more of DJ Lagway just because he is considered to be more explosive. You look at what he's been able to do with his limited snaps this season. He has more of a downfield passing ability than Graham Mertz, and he can go and lead that Florida offense to score quickly. So if Florida faces an early deficit, I would not be surprised. It maybe sounds counterintuitive that they go to a freshman, just given what his skill set is. It's really going to come down to how that game shakes out. But expect Graham Mertz to take the first snap on Saturday and maybe get the second series as well before they go to Lagway, and then maybe play it by ear the rest of the way.
Yeah, different teams, different setting for this game, different location, of course. But Graham Mertz was able to beat Tennessee last year, so he does have some experience. Vegas might not believe, some Gators fans might not believe, but we found someone who does believe because we simulated this game 20 times on EA College Football 25. And guys, get this. Florida came out on top 16 times out of 20 on the road. I really don't know what the video game has against Tennessee, but let's talk about this game seriously. For each team, starting with the video game champs, Graham, what's the biggest key for Florida to pull out a win in this real football game?
I think it starts on defense. They have to have some semblance of a pass rush. It wasn't something we saw much of the first month of the season, but against UCF, Florida had 5 sacks. They pressured KJ Jefferson, who admittedly is not one of the most accurate quarterbacks in college football. They pressured him into some errant throws, got a late interception. If they can get an effective pass rush and get into the backfield and stop the run, like I mentioned earlier, they're going to have a chance to get off the field. And you got to get off the field on third down. That was something that Florida struggled with in that loss to Texas A&M. But if they can get pressure from the front 7, they're going to give themselves a chance in this game. I also think getting healthy is a huge key for Florida. They've been without Eugene Wilson III. They also were without Aiden Mizell, who was one of the standouts in that win at Mississippi State. If they can get either of those sophomore pass catchers back, they're going to be a little bit more dynamic on offense, and that's going to give them a better chance to, like I said, score quickly, which I think is going to be a key in this game. When you look at the tempo that Tennessee likes to play with, how good they've been at home, Florida is going to need to maximize possessions and score quickly and also be able to get off the field on third down. If they do all those things, then maybe EA Sports' video game is right, and Florida's going to have a chance at pulling this upset despite being a double-digit underdog on Saturday.
Yeah, Graham, you mentioned Tennessee being really, really good at home. I believe they're 20-4 under Josh Heupel. I think the only teams that have beaten him since early in his first season has been Georgia. So Tennessee's got a ride, a home crowd. Tennessee hasn't played a home game since September 14th. There's been 2 Morgan Wallen concerts on that field since then. So Tennessee needs that crowd to be a factor, and Josh Heupel call for that this week. As for the team, offensively, I think they've got to get the passing game going. They've got to generate some big plays through the air that makes things easier. It was kind of a tough sledding at times against Oklahoma, but they were able to generate some big chunk pass plays down the field, one for a touchdown in the first quarter. That makes things easier. It gives the stadium a boost. It gives your offense a boost. It gives your young quarterback a boost. So I think that's what this offense has got to do is they've got to get back on track with some big plays down the field in the passing game. Defensively, I think the secondary needs to shore some things up. They were a little leaky in zone coverage against Arkansas. Taylor Green then made some great throws in the second half against tight coverage, and Arkansas's guys just made some plays. It's really fine margins in the SEC. Those kind of either way kind of plays can be the difference in you winning a game like Tennessee would have liked to have done against Arkansas and losing and coming out on the wrong end. So those plays are key. The secondary has sort of been a question mark for Tennessee going into the season. Didn't really get tested very much in September. They saw a good passing game against Arkansas, or a decent passing game, and a passing game was able to make some plays. Florida has a couple quarterbacks that, as Graham mentioned, is playing very well. So the secondary has got to tighten up some things in zone coverage and man coverage and make plays when they get the chance. And if they're able to do that, the way they can stop the run, Tennessee's defense should continue to play pretty well.
All right, guys, I'm excited about this game. Thank you so much for breaking it down for us. We appreciate it. You can check out more of their work at Swamp247 and GoVols247. That's where you need to be to get everything you need to know about the Florida Gators and the Tennessee Volunteers. Those 2 writers you just heard from, their entire crews, they'll have you covered all season long.